Welcome, Caleb's Basketball Pod. We saw a lot of games happen over the weekend, so let's jump right into it. Huge implications on these playoff games. In some retrospects, we saw series either being taken control of or just complete control, just dominance in some series, and we even saw one series come to a close in 4 games. That being the Oklahoma-Memphis Grizzlies series. We'll jump right into this series. Memphis had a shot to tie it late. We saw Oklahoma go with the strategy of fouling, which I don't really necessarily get. End up putting Desmond Bane at the free throw line, down 3 with 0.9 left, so 9/10 left on the clock. He made the first one. He purposely missed the second, and Memphis couldn't get the tip. I've spoke on not being big on that strategy, and I just think if you're Mark Daigneault, you have prepared for the playoffs. Your first round, you dominated for most of the series. Last couple games were a little closer in Memphis, but it was still in your control. My biggest thing is I would believe in my number one defense, statistically number one in all these categories, historically number one in most of these categories. I'm believing in my number one defense, and I'm not taking that foul path. I know it's for playoffs. You want to win by any means and any cost. I'm just not big on that. I, as a coach, would trust in my guys and say, hey, go out and get me that stop and go from there. But they took the free throw. They took the free throw route, and it worked. It paid off. They sent Memphis home in 4. No one's surprised. We saw John crutches from the hip injury from Game 3. So just not a good sign for Oklahoma at all. But we just ended up sitting at a like I said, I'm not big on the foul game, but it worked. It got you to the next round. So speaking from there, we will go to who they will eventually face. We've seen a pivotal Game 4 in the Intuit Dome of the Clippers and Nuggets, where the Nuggets would hold off a 22-point comeback attempt from the Los Angeles Clippers on a Jokic missed 3 turned into an Aaron Gordon tip dunk right as the clock expired. You think it's a little risky, go with the dunk, but you made sure it went in. But at that same point, the ball could have still been on your hands before time expired. You could have just tipped it, but hey, it worked. All in all, if I'm Denver, you have to avoid letdowns like that. You were up 22 points. You should have just kept your foot on the throat of the Clippers. You should have finished that game. Kawhi, again, going back to that point, he is playing out of this world. I most definitely see this Nuggets-Clippers series going to 7 games. And I think there's just no chance that I think it ends before 7, because that would mean one team would have to win the next 2 games. We haven't seen momentum shift in one direction fully. I think we saw it close, and if the Clippers would have completed that comeback, I'd have said, okay, I'm wrong, it's over in 5. But we haven't seen momentum go one side to the other. It goes one way, then it comes back the next. It goes one way, it comes back the next. So it's been a fun series, very interesting, and I think we're going to get 7 games of it, which is what we want. This is basketball at the highest level, the most competitive playoffs, as I've said before, that I've seen in a while. We're seeing them in the first round, and even some games are not going how we expect. Staying in the Western Conference, we saw Minnesota win both games in Minnesota against the Lakers, so it's proven to be pivotal that one game they took in LA, because now they have a shot to close the Lakers out in Los Angeles in 5 games, and I don't think anyone predicted this. I think most people were predicting the Lakers would win. Now we're looking at the chance that Minnesota closes this series in 5, and if not 5, it goes back to Minnesota for 6, and we're seeing the Lakers are having trouble winning in Minnesota. So, at that point, first off, for Wolves, I said it before the playoffs, don't count out the Wolves because they were playing tremendous basketball before the playoffs came. They were clicking at the right point, and right now it looks like it's working for Lakers. Big problem I seen on Game 4 No substitutions in the second half for J.J. Redick. He's a rookie coach in the playoffs. I get you want to go with your guys that you trust, but you need trust more guys on your team. You have Gabe Vincent coming off the bench. This man was a pivotal part in the Heat going to the finals a couple years ago. You have the rookie Dalton Connect. He's been a really good catch-and-shoot guy. You have Jackson Hayes. He's been playing really well in at that center spot and at least make Minnesota defend the five. I think you could have used a couple of those guys. I don't completely understand why you just went your five and you didn't even change anyone. Even Joe Vanderbilt did play at all in the second half. It's just confusing. I mean, I get he's a rookie coach, and I've been huge complimentary on J.J. Redick, and I love what he's done. But I did not like the not playing anyone else but your five guys. You saw LeBron in that fourth quarter. He looked gassed. And he was 0 of 2, 0 points in the fourth quarter. Lakers had a double-digit lead going into the fourth quarter, and you end up maybe a 9-point lead, and you end up losing the lead and the game. At that point, if you would have, say, at the fourth quarter, you'd have thrown in some of your bench guys, rotated a little bit. If that lead evaporated, which it ended up doing anyway, by the time you put your starters back in, or some of your starters back in, you would have had them fresh instead of having your starters, the ones that lost the lead, and now they're tired by the time the lead's evaporated, and Minnesota took full advantage of you. I mean, look at how Anthony Edwards played. Again, another huge, I've been talking about him a lot, but Jaden McDaniels, another huge bucket for him, and one that gave the Wolves the lead, that they ended up not losing anymore for the rest of the game. That was with about 40-some seconds left in the game, and they ended up not losing it. Some bad passes and turnovers for LeBron we saw. We saw that in game 3 too. We saw where they threw the ball up court. He was going to pull up for 3 and he just lost the ball. And I think a lot of it's just he's in his 40s and Redick's playing him heavy minutes. It's exhaustion. He's not that same younger guy. He can't play like 40-some minutes a game anymore. And not saying he can't, saying he shouldn't. He shouldn't do that. And you know he's old. Been in there for a while. He's been fortunate to have a career where he's not really broke down from injuries. But you don't want that start now at this point when he is older. So I think at that point you need monitor the minutes. Not break down your players, not overuse your players. You're seeing a lot of injuries in these playoffs, and maybe some of it's from just exhaustion. Some guys are just going at it over and over again. We saw Russell Westbrook, pivotal part of the Denver Nuggets. We saw him miss a game this past game because of an injury. I mean, he's been playing huge minutes for Denver over there. He's been getting more minutes even the games prior than Michael Porter Jr. was in the late game situation. So just stuff like that. You have to be wary of your guys and know what you should do and know what their limits are and not try to push past. Again, LeBron's in his 40s. Luka's coming off of being sick, and you ran these guys to the bone. I think it's the fourth thing I'm extremely, extremely critical of J.J. Redick. Besides that, I think he's done an amazing job. Game planning's been great. And all in all, fun series to watch, Minnesota and LA. Shifting gears to the other series, the last series out west, is Golden State Houston. Houston has everything it takes to beat the Warriors. But you can't have one bad game from Jalen Green, one great game from Jalen Green, one bad game from Jalen Green. Next up, game 4, we're expecting a great game. You can't have that. You're supposed to be one of the stars of this team. You have to be consistent. Your backcourt, you're trying to outdo Stephen Curry, you and Fred VanVleet together. And that's hard enough as is, but now you're making Fred try to do you alone because you're just not playing good enough. You did good in one game, but then the next game it's like non-existent. You can't have that. That's one thing. The other thing was you had the golden opportunity to put down the Warriors without Jimmy Butler. Now, game 4, people's expecting Jimmy Butler back, and you had your opportunity, if you're Houston, to still win back in Golden State and give yourself home court advantage again. Now, home court advantage, as of now, is still favoring Golden State. This could, if Houston don't play like this is their last game, like this is do or die, this could be a Minnesota-LA situation where They go back to Houston down 3-1, and we don't want that. They're a young team. They don't even have a veteran experience like the Lakers do, where the Lakers may make that comeback. We're seeing this young team in Houston just unsure of like what they're doing and where they're going. So, I said it before, I do think it's Golden State in 7, but that may change depending on if Golden State takes this next run. But either way, I love that Houston team, and if they do get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, I think there's going to be a lot of superstars that are looking at Houston and saying, hey, they're me away from being championship contenders. And that's a great situation being for Houston. So no matter what, with what Ime Udoka's got out of these young guys, there's nothing hang their heads over. It's been an amazing one for them, and no one ever thought they'd be number 2 in the Western Conference when the season ended, but there they are, and they should be very proud of the season they had. Switching gears to the Eastern Conference, let's talk about the number 1 seed. We saw Cleveland take full control of that series, winning by nearly 40 in Miami without Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell did not play well. Ty Jerome was plus 33 off the bench. DeAndre Hunter was plus 34 off the bench. Both huge. You don't see those numbers often, and the fact that you're getting that bench production. And Cleveland's going like 10 deep right now. A lot of teams go 7, 8 at most deep. Cleveland's going 10 deep. They're using 5 guys off the bench. That's big. A lot of teams don't have that versatility to do that. So I think the playoffs could come down to depth. They're showing they have it, but it's Miami. People expected you beat Miami. Finish the job on Monday. Get some rest for Indiana, Milwaukee, because it looks like, and I'll talk about next, you're about to see who you're going to play in the very next couple of days, very soon. But with that said, like I said, you just have to finish it. You're a better team than Miami. You have way more talent than Miami. You want to win championships, take the days, get yourself some extra rest. Miami's side of things, they played really well at one point in the second quarter, and they were starting cut it closer. Fourth quarter, they cut it closer again after struggling a bit. And then Cleveland just kind of took off midway through that fourth quarter. And when they didn't look back. And the fourth quarter was kind of already a blowout at that point. I think Mitchell needs to play a lot better. He can't have 13-point games if you're playing against Boston or Indiana or New York, teams that are possibly next up. But yeah, I think it's big to just finish out on Monday, but you also have to look at it this way. Eric Spoelstra's never been swept, and I'm pretty sure he don't want to be swept now. So it's not going to be a cakewalk, and that's what you should expect. This is the NBA playoffs. Moving on to the next series. Indiana, Milwaukee. I thought we were going to see a tied series. I believe I predicted Milwaukee. I originally thought maybe Dame Lillard would be back, or he wasn't going to play at all in the playoffs. I think him coming back too soon maybe messed up a little bit of the flow, not really of the offense, but more so just the team flow, I want to say, because we saw him play yesterday and go down on a non-contact injury that's feared to be a torn Achilles. At that point, he came back way too soon from that blood clot. He should have not been playing. And the other thing is, now you're at the moment where it just killed team morale. I think Indiana finishes this series in the 5th game that's coming up in Indiana, and they're going to set themselves up to more than likely face Cleveland, who will probably finish Miami Monday or Wednesday. So I think either way, you're about to see your second round matchup between Indiana and Cleveland. If that is the case, I will have a separate episode previewing the second round of the playoffs, whatever matchups we have and whenever they're made and set. Next up, Eastern Conference. You have the Boston Celtics. We saw them drop one on Friday to the Orlando Magic. There was also a golden opportunity to win in Boston without Jason Tatum, but you lost that if you're Orlando, and you really you needed that game. Now you did get that opportunity, and you did win your second game in Orlando. So at that point, you put yourself in a hole, and this series surprisingly could have been a lot closer than it is. I think a lot of people was even surprised Orlando's given the fight that they are to Boston, but I've said it before, if you want to beat the Celtics, you have to make the game dirty. You have to make the game nasty. And I'm not saying play dirty. I'm not saying play nasty. I'm saying make the game physical. They want to run free and shoot three-pointers. That's what they want to do. They want to get up and down the court. You have to make the game physical. You have to make them fight and play physical, because they're not about that. They're about getting up and down the court, shooting as many threes as possible, and shooting a historic rate of three-pointers. But guess what? If you slow the game down and you make it physical, they're going to feel less like shooting those, and also they're not going to get as many up because the game's slower. So that is your way to beat the Celtics, and we're seeing the magic right there. And if nothing else, I think it's a blueprint for teams like New York and Cleveland, Indiana, anyone that may play Boston later on after this series, as it looks like Boston's about to wrap this one up in Boston, Game 5. But I think you're seeing a blueprint of how you beat the Celtics, and if I'm every other team, I'm trying to take advantage of this. This may not be your game, but it's best to play not your game, knowing it's not the Celtics game, and knowing you actually have a shot to beat them, because we all know they're most definitely the odds-on favorite to win y'all. So it's just big in general of play a style that gives you a shot to win. Work on that style, muck up the game, make it physical. And that gives you a chance, because we're seeing Orlando's right there at the end of these games for the most part, all except for maybe one game. They've been right there. They've been close. They're just not getting the job done, and they just don't have the guys that Boston has to make plays. They have maybe one guy in France in the game they won. France was actually the guy to make the plays. So I don't know. But it is interesting to see that there's a way to beat Boston. Speaking of a way to beat Boston, it's looking like it's shaping up to be the New York Knicks. As we saw the Knicks take, after dropping one game in New York, they bounced back by taking both games in Detroit. Game 4 was a little questionable. I think we all pretty much believe that Tim Hardaway Jr. was fouled on that last closeout by Josh Hart. Even the NBA said it was a foul, but it wasn't called, so it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I get the Pistons' frustration, and they aren't going to go away easy in Game 5. They have nothing to lose, and they know this. They're going into this game with their backs against the wall, nothing to lose. So at that point, you're just like, hey, just go play basketball. Maybe you come away with a win. Maybe you get another win in Detroit. Maybe you force Game 7. But if not, you have nothing to lose. No one expected you to be here, and no one expected you to be taking it to the Knicks in the first round. That's not what people were predicting. So if you're Detroit, just play your ball. Maybe you might have a shot to win a game or two and make it interesting, at least take it to 7. But on the flip side, I have to say, when Karl-Anthony Towns is more involved in the offense, when other guys besides Brunson, because we know Brunson can get his, when other guys are getting theirs, the Knicks look dangerous offensively. When it's just Brunson and everyone else is kind of standing around and Brunson's playing hero ball, the Knicks are not as scary offensively. I think that's something to look into, and I think that's a blueprint to beat the Knicks at that point. I think you have to make Jalen Brunson play hero ball, because I think it gives you the best chance to defend them. And that's taken nothing away from Brunson, because he's been spectacular in these playoffs. And he's been amazing, but the whole offense is not involved, and you see other guys just standing around when he's taken over. And I don't think that's great. And I think we need to get a little bit more creative on plays for the Knicks and run a little bit more and get Towns involved a little bit more. Post up Towns when a smaller defender like Tobias Harris or someone's on him. Get some points in the paint from him and get him comfortable and confident, and go to Towns when you need some shots too as well. And I think that would make the Knicks more dangerous and give them like a two-headed monster. But the Knicks seem to just be going towards Brunson, and I think the Knicks could unlock more danger, more offensive consistency if we get everyone involved offensively throughout the game. But with that said, it looks like they're shaping up for a Celtics-Knicks series, which I think everybody would be looking forward to. Rivals, there's always physical, it's always kind of bad blood, so to speak, when these two teams meet, really in any sport, New York and Boston. So it'll be very interesting to see the Knicks and Celtics, if that is what we get, which it looks like we're moving towards. And again, I have a preview episode for that. But great weekend of NBA basketball, and stay tuned. We're coming back again later this week with another episode.